أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وتابعين لهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين اللهم صل على محمد النبي الأمي وأزواجه أمهات المؤمنين وذرياته وآل بيته كما صليت على إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد وصلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. So اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد. So I'm going to deal with our class. We were dealing with the fards, the obligatories of Salat, the fards of Salat. And there are 14 of those. I don't remember which number I left off with. I left off with number 5. So, okay, I'm going to quickly go from 1 to 5. The first one is niyyah or intention. Must have that. That's one of the fards of Salat. The second one is called takbiratul ihram. It means the first time you say Allahu Akbar, when you first start your prayer. Without this, you miss a fard and your prayer would be invalid. The third one is to stand while saying Allahu Akbar. To stand while saying takbiratul ihram. That's the third fard. The fourth fard is to recite Al-Fatiha. And the ulama have some difference of idea in regard to that. But in my madhab, they say, in each rak'ah, Al-Fatiha is fard. In each rak'ah, Al-Fatiha is fard. The fifth one is to stand to recite Al-Fatiha. And of course, you know, what they mean by that is if you have the ability. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He always deals with whether or not you have the ability to do something. So if you have the ability to stand to recite Al-Fatiha and you do not do so, that means your prayer would be invalid. And these now I'm talking about the fard prayer. I'm not talking about nafil prayer. Fard prayer means, Allahumma salli wa sallam wa barak ala Muhammad. Fard prayer means the subh prayer in the morning, the zuhur prayer, the asr prayer, the maghrib prayer, and the isha prayer. These 5 prayers are fard. They are the obligation that all Muslims must perform these 5 prayers. Every day of their life, this is fard. And what you don't do, you owe to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala until the day you meet Him. This is what the fiqh says. If you miss a fard prayer, you must make it up. And if you don't make it up, you owe this fard prayer until the day you die. And the longer that you don't make it up, the more Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dislikes that you haven't made this fard prayer. Allahumma salli wa sallam wa barak ala Muhammad. The 6th is ruku'. To make ruku' after standing is the 6th fard of prayer. To make a ruku', to bend your back, put your hands on your knees. This is ruku', and this is the 6th fard of salat. To stand from ruku', to make your back straight, is the 7th fard of salah. To stand from ruku', to make your back straight, is the 7th fard of salah. This means that sometimes people, when they make ruku' and their back is like this, bent over, and they stand, they say, Sami Allahu liman hamida, and instead of making their back straight, make their back straight to say, Rabbana wa laqal hamdu hamdan kathiran, tayyiban mubarakan fi mil samawati wal ard wa ma bainahuma mil kulli shay'in barak. Instead of them doing that, to say, Sami Allahu liman hamida, Rabbana wa laqal hamd, instead of them doing that, they go, Sami Allahu liman hamida, and they start to make sujood. So when their back doesn't come straight, they've missed the 7th fard of salah. which is to make your back straight from ruku. Many people don't do this farad. They come from ruku and they don't stand completely up. They stand almost up and then they say Allahu Akbar and they make sujood. That means that they are constantly missing the 7th farad of Salah. Allahumma salli wa sallam wa barakallah ala Muhammad. The 8th farad is sujood. The 8th farad is sujood. To put your head and your nose on the ground. This is the 8th farad. If you miss this farad, your prayer would become invalid unless you fix it. So we will learn later that when you miss a farad, you can still keep your prayer, but you must fix the farad. If you don't fix the farad, the prayer would become invalid. Nothing else can take the place of that farad. Sujood al-saw, you know what I mean? The prostrations for forgetting, they do not fix the missing of a farad. The missing of a farad can only be fixed by making the farad itself. I have to make that very clear. There is no makeup some other way for farad. The ninth farad is the sitting between the two sajdas. Jalsa. That's right. The sitting between the two sajdas, or as he said, jalsa. Allahumma aghfirli warhamni wastani wajbani wazukhni wafani wafini. Allahumma aghfirli warhamni wastani wajbani wazukhni wafani wafini. Allahumma aghfirli warhamni wastani wajbani wazukhni wafani wafini. This is what you are saying while you're sitting in between the two jalsa, between the two sujood, in this posture called jalsa. That is the 9th farad. The 10th farad is to say, Assalamu alaikum. In the madhab of Imam Malik, to say Assalamu alaikum to the right side is the last of those farads. To say Assalamu alaikum to the right side is the last of the farads inside the prayer. The 11th farad is to sit for Assalamu alaikum. That means if a person is ending his prayer and he wants to run away quickly to go back to work or to say hello to someone, and he is saying Assalamu alaikum as he's getting up and moving away, his prayer would become invalid unless he sat back down and properly said Assalamu alaikum or Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. In the madhab, they allow you to do both things. I'll talk about that later. Allahumma salli wa sallam wa barakallah ala Muhammad. Then the 12th fard is something called tamanina. Tamanina. I'll explain. The 13th fard is something called Atadal. Atadal is the 13th fard. Atadal is the 13th fard. I'll explain those two after I finish. And to follow the order of the fards is the 14th fard. To follow the order of the fards is the 14th fard. In other words, you can't make sujood before you make ruku. You can't make ruku before you make al-Fatiha. Huh? You can't do sujood before you do takbiratul ihram. So the 14 fards must be in order, and that itself is a fard. Okay. Now, You wonder why, I'm going to explain tamanina and atida. You wonder why I didn't say a tashahud. Because many people think a tashahud is farad. But according to the jurists, a tashahud is not farad. A tashahud is what's called sunnah mu'akkada. Sunnah mu'akkada means a major thing that the Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam always did in the prayer. Sunnah mu'akkada. But if you miss a tashahud, you don't lose your prayer. Your prayer does not become invalid. Alaykum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Your prayer does not become invalid if you miss a tashahud. What happens though is that it's a sin for being careless in your prayer. And if you miss it more times, then your prayer would become invalid. But if you only miss it once, your prayer is not invalid. This is not a farad. But the farads, if you miss those even once and you don't fix it, the prayer would be invalid. Everybody understand me? Yes. Alhamdulillah. Okay, now, I told you that the 12th farad is tamanina. It means you should wait some time when you are able to do so when you do a farad. That means each position you go to, it should be distinct from the next position. Like sometimes you see when we make a ruku, we will stand in ruku sometime saying Subhan Rabbil Azim, Subhan Rabbil Azim, Subhan Rabbil Azim. We will say it sometimes, many times while we're in ruku. That is so that everyone will know this posture is ruku. We won't do like many people do. When they go, Allahu Akbar, Sami Allahu Liman, Allahu Akbar. This, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is like people who are like a chicken, pecking. See? We won't do that. Each posture must be distinct from the next posture. When you stand from ruku and you say, Sami Allahu liman hamida, you should make your back straight and you should say, Rabbana wa lakal hamd. And then if you learn, as time goes on, you will say, Hamdu hamdan kathiran tayyib mubarakan fi mil samawati wal ard wa bainahuma mil kulli shay'in bard. And just saying that alone and standing will give you the time that it takes to do tamanina. So each posture will have to be distinct from the other, and that is tamanina. So if you're following someone in prayer, and for some reason he is not doing each posture to its distinctive point, after when the prayer is finished, you must tell him that you're missing tamanina, which is a farad. Allahumma salli wa sallam wa barakallahu ala Muhammad. These things you cannot do quickly. You must take your time and do them. You should wait for a few minutes or moments between each farad. Not minutes, but moments in between each farad, thereby making each posture distinct. To spend any time between each farad to distinguish the portions or the positions is farad. To spend more time other than this is sunnah. So, Islam likes that you should spend a little bit longer than necessary in these postures, in these farad prayers. We're not talking about nafil prayers. We're talking about farad prayers now, the obligatory prayers. The 13th farad I said was atadal, which means to do something while you are correctly standing or sitting, and you must go to each position completely. For example, when you make ruku and begin to stand before sujood, it isn't enough to make an upward motion. You must rise and stand straight. This is atidal. So they're saying that each position you must do it properly. Tamanina is that you should do each one with a certain amount of time so that each posture is distinguished. Atidal is that you should do each posture properly. In other words, Allahumma salli wa sallam wa barak ala Muhammad. Sometimes I see people who sit for jalsa and they sit with their 2 feet like this, back like that. This is not the method for jalsa. They should sit with the left leg should be down and the right one, you should be on your toes of the right foot. Not like 2 feet like this. Left one should be down and the right one should be on the toes. When you're standing and reciting Al-Fatiha, your legs, your feet should not be spread apart like that. They should be closer, like you're level for your shoulder so that they can, each foot can go next to the foot to the person who is near you. And if you're the imam or praying alone as a single person, you should remember to keep your feet in a balanced position where they're underneath you, not outward like that. So these are things that are called atidal, that each posture should be in its proper position. And as I said, the 14th fard is that each thing must follow in order. The intention, the takbiratul ihram, al-fatiha, ruku, etc. And this does not exclude the sunnahs that come in between the order of the fards. So you should make those sunnahs that come in between properly too, and in the right way. You should not make the sunnah of a tashahhud while you're standing reciting the Quran after Al-Fatiha. That's what I'm saying to you. You want to ask me? Wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah. Okay. It's possible to make tamanina without atidal and vice versa. You understand? That means that you have to be careful that each of those 2 things, you make each one properly. Because a person could sit properly, but not sit completely. He could put his feet in the right way, but move so quickly that he doesn't do tamanina, by lingering some time to distinguish each movement. You see? Okay. Now, I probably got up to the 4th fard is to recite Al-Fatiha. Al-Fatiha is a fard which must be recited by your tongue and your lips. I went to this one because the other 3, they're very easy to understand. That you must have niyyah before you start a prayer. If you don't have niyyah, you don't have an action. All right? If you don't have niyyah, you don't have an action. And this is in the books of hadith always the first of the traditions, niyyah. So every action that doesn't have niyyah is no action according to Al-Islam. In order for it to have worth, it must be with niyyah, with intention. And the second one, takbiratul ihram, is to say Allahu Akbar. You can't say God is great when you start your prayer. You can't say oh God when you start your prayer. You can't say Akbar Allah when you start your prayer. It has to be Allahu Akbar. This is called takbiratul ihram, and this is the second fard. If you do something else, you miss that fard. You can't say any other way. In order to keep this farid, you must say Allahu Akbar. So listen to me. The person who takes his shahada today never makes salah before. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say that person, my friend Jafar, Assalamu alaikum. You may want to sit away from the camera. Okay. So the person who takes his shahada today and hasn't prayed before, that person will not be able to say Allahu Akbar immediately. He's forgiven. He can say, my God is great, or some other words, for a small amount of time, and his prayer would be accepted. Because Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam say when the person take his shahada, when he become a new Muslim person, that he is like a baby just born. He has no sin. He has no bad. Everything for him is pristine. He's better than all of us at that time when he says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, meaning that he bears witness that there is no God but Allah, Muhammad is his prophet and his messenger. He at that time becomes better than everyone around him because he has no sins. He's new, like a newborn baby. This person has some small amount of time to learn his prayers properly. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will allow him some time to learn. He can even have a book in his hand and say, how do you say that? Allahu Akbar? Okay. Allahu Akbar. You understand? He can do that for some small amount of time to make his prayer. But it is also the responsibility of us, the people who know that he's a new Muslim. Our responsibility is to teach him to say Allahu Akbar and all of the other things that he must do in his prayer. That is our responsibility. When you give someone shahada, you cannot give him shahada and let him walk away. You must give him shahada and then help to provide him with what is necessary for him to be able to do his religion properly. Okay? But for a small amount of time, alaykum salam wa rahmatullah. For a small amount of time, that person is allowed to say other words, meaning Allahu Akbar, and still have his prayer accepted. But that doesn't go for the rest of us people. The rest of the Muslim people who have been a Muslim for a few months or something like that, we must be saying Allahu Akbar in its right way to do takbiratul ihram as a farid of our prayer if we want to maintain our prayer. Then I say to stand for saying Allahu Akbar is a farid. You must be standing unless you're sick and you're not able to stand. But again, if your prayer is nafil, if it's not a fard prayer, you don't have to have a reason. You can sit down and make your takbir. You can sit down and recite al-Fatiha. You don't have to have a reason if the prayer is nafil. But if the prayer is fard and you're not sick, you're not so old that your legs cannot stand up, then, and you don't do it, your prayer would be invalid. So, the people have to understand that. And this is why we're making a tape like this one. So that the people will start to understand that their obligation in regards to their prayer. You can't come home today and say, I'm very tired today. I think I'm going to make my Maghrib prayer sitting down. And, you know, you walked into the house. You walked to get your chair. And then you sat in your chair, but you cannot stand up to say Allahu Akbar and the recital al-Fatiha and the other things in your prayer. This person, and then when he finishes, he gets up and he walks and he goes to the store. His prayers are not accepted because he had no excuse to sit down to say al-Fatiha, to sit down to say takbiratul ihram, to sit down to make a ruku. You following me? Alhamdulillah. Okay, so the fourth fard in prayer is reciting Al-Fatiha. Al-Fatiha is a fard which must be recited by your tongue and or your lips. Your tongue and your lips. If you recite Al-Fatiha only by your mind and your heart, according to Imam Malik's madhab here, you are not considered as reciting Al-Fatiha. The only time you can recite Al-Fatiha only by your mind is if you are mahmoom. If you're following the Imam and the Imam is reciting Al-Fatiha for the benefit of the congregation in prayer, you do not have to say Al-Fatiha to consider that you have done your prayer properly. You can do nothing. But if you are Imam or a single person, you must recite Al-Fatiha and you must do it with your tongue and your lips to be considered as having recited Al-Fatiha. Alaykum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Doing this farad of reciting Al-Fatiha, if you're reciting Al-Fatiha in a prayer that is not audible, do you have to make sure that it's audible to you and not everybody else?
Well, you don't have to hear it. And if it's a non-audible prayer, you don't have to hear it, but you at least have to move your mouth to say, you understand? You must do that at least to say that you have done Al-Fatiha. In other words, you can't do like this and say that you have done Al-Fatiha. It must have some movement of your tongue and your lips. Okay. Yes. Alaykum salam wa rahmatullah.
When you're making the salat behind the Imam, and the Imam is saying the Al-Fatiha, you saying that you do not have to say it to yourself?
You do not have to say it at all. You can stand there and say nothing.
Okay, in reference to the hadith, where it says that Allah divided the prayer into two. When the person says, Allah says, my servant has praised me. And that hadith, it goes on to say that they asked the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, do we have to recite it as well too? And he says, yes.
Assalamu alaikum, Imam.
And hadith Qudsi. So does that, what is the ruling on that? When it says that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, yes, you should recite it as well too. Hadith Qudsi.
No. It means that you are allowed to say it. You're allowed to say it. But to pray behind the Imam, you don't have to say anything. The Imam, he does everything on the behalf of the Muslim people. We, as Mahmoon, we should follow him. In this madhab, they say, you have it's a good thing for you to do, to recite Al-Fatiha silently behind the Imam when he's making a silent prayer. But only Al-Fatiha. You shouldn't recite some other surah after Al-Fatiha. But if you don't recite Al-Fatiha, it doesn't mean that you lose your prayer. You see, you have the right to not say anything. So when the jurists, this hadith you're saying, you see, if you tell me a hadith, right? I hear what you're saying, but I can't take that as, the word of the jurist, you know what I mean? That's your idea from what you read from the hadith, that's the way you understood it. That doesn't necessarily mean to me that that's what it is. So, it really is not good, it's not good character to explain a hadith after the fiqh of the jurist, It's like, I don't really know how to explain it any differently.
As a layperson, it's not wise to give your interpretation of a hadith when the jurists have already given the interpretation of hadith.
Exactly, because in order to make these decisions all come from hadith. So there are like many hadiths involving these things. There's not like one hadith and that one takes precedent over all the others. Is it time for the...
No.
Allahumma salli wa sallam wa barak ala Sayyidina. What time is it? 6:30. But he makes the azan a little bit early. Okay. Okay, so this type of thing, I would have to see what other imams, like maybe some other madhabs, may take that to mean something differently. I don't know. I know that Imam Malik's madhab, it doesn't make you have to say Al-Fatiha behind the imam. But they give you the option. If you would like to, you are allowed to. You should make it very quietly. And you should only recite Al-Fatiha, not something else after Al-Fatiha. So, it says here, when the imam recites silently, it is mustahab for you to recite it. You should recite it silently to yourself, but if you do not recite it, your prayer would still be valid. So these lessons, I've done these lessons for many, many years. Many, many years. When I started to do these lessons, I had hair on my head and my beard was black. You see? I do these lessons for the benefit of the Muslim people so that they would have a choice. These lessons come from the Salat Sagriya. This is the book that they use in the University of Al-Azhar for the master's program and for the doctorate's program. I'm sure that this information, which came from the ulama who was the highest ranking ulama in his time, the highest ranking ulama in his time, he taught me these lessons, and over many, many years, and I've talked to scholars of various dimensions. None has ever found a problem with this information from the Salat Sagriya. So, anyway, let me finish now. For the person who does not know Al-Fatiha and must pray alone, if he makes ruku' immediately after takbiratul ihram, his prayer would still be valid. But it is better if he spends some time after takbir and just to keep the form of the prayer. So listen to me. That person, he doesn't know how to recite Al-Fatiha. He doesn't know how to recite Surah, anything. He's new Muslim. What we should teach him, Assalamu alaikum. What we should teach him is how to first make all of those postures of the prayer properly, and how to stand for a small amount of time for each posture to make it distinct. This is what we should be teaching him, you see? And then we should teach him how to recite the words. The first thing would be the postures, and then we teach him to recite the words. So for him, he may not know how to recite the words, and he will move quickly to go from standing to ruku', to standing again. So it's our duty to say to him, no, brother, until you learn the words, at least pretend as if you were saying some words. And in the meantime, you stand for a little bit of time before you go into ruku'. You understand? Okay. So, Allahumma salli wa sallam wa barak ala Muhammad. In the madhab, they say that Al-Fatiha, they have some difference of opinion. Some scholars say Al-Fatiha is fard in each rak'ah. And other scholars say it's fard in the majority of the rak'ah and sunnah in the small amount of rak'ah. So if you're talking about the Dhuhr prayer, they say it would be fard in 3 rak'ah and sunnah in the 4th rak'ah. This is the second saying. The biggest saying and the strongest saying in the madhab is that it is fard in each rak'ah. Okay? So I'm going to stop now because it's 6:15, so that if you want to ask me a couple of things real quickly before he makes the adhan, I will listen to you. Yes?
So what does that difference of opinion mean if Fatiha is not fard in every rak'ah? So that means that you can get away with not saying Fatiha in the rak'ah?
No. What it means is that it's some junior scholars. You see, we're going to take, and there's a part of the books of fiqh called the Hamish. I used to call it the Heshim, but that's not the right word. The right word is Hamish. And in the Hamish, it explains who said what. It explains who said what and who we should listen to. So this thing, it explains that the biggest ulama of these madhabs say that it is fard in all of the rak'ah. But they must give you, if there is some other idea in fiqh, they have to give you that information. But after they give you that information, they always tell you, but that is the minority opinion that we don't really listen to. We take the opinion of these people who are the bigger scholars and their evidence is stronger or something like that. You understand? Yes. So, but my duty to you is to give you all of the information, not just a piece of the information. So I tell you other things as well. As you like.
Is Dua Kanut from the Muakkad?
No. The Kanut is not Muakkada. No. It's a Kafifa. The Kanut is a smaller sunnah. If you don't do it, your prayer is valid. You don't have to make it up. As a matter of fact, if you don't do it at its proper time, you're not allowed to make it up. Your question. You called me on the telephone. Tell me.
Oh, the question is that you have a male child and a female child, and both babies at different times will urinate on you. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said for the male child, sprinkle water on the urine, and for the female child, he said to wash it. And I called you to ask you, why do you have to wash it for the female, and why do you have to sprinkle it for the male child?
Okay, so Allahumma salli wa sallam barakallahu Muhammad. Sometimes in fiqh, they don't give the answer to why all the time. They give you the decision. They give you the hadith. But they don't always go into the science of why. Because many times Allah Muhammad explained why, everything else is conjecture. So it's like we're trying to figure out why would the Prophet say this or that. So I'll come to you. So this is not like something that is explained by him. But the hadith we know that it's a very well known hadith that Muhammad say, you know, for the boy you sprinkle water when he peed in his lap. He sprinkled water. But when the girl, he lifted the girl and she peed on him, he actually washed the garment. And all of the jurists agree that to wash it for the girl is necessary and to sprinkle it for the boy is not necessary. So my bigger thing with that is this. Allahumma salli wa sallam wa barakallahu Muhammad. This subject, tahara, is purity. The people of today do not understand it at all. The people think that more soap and water makes you a better Muslim. They don't understand the history. Because the Sahabi were not so much concerned with the water and soap. As a matter of fact, the soap, by their standard, was a bid'ah. Wasn't even a part of their lifestyle. It's a bid'ah by the standard of the Sahabi. Wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah. Salat Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa sallam tasliman kathira. So look, you know how when they ate food, what was their towel? Their towel was between their toes. That's how they washed their hands off. When they, in fact, when they wanted to dry their hands, they dry their hands on the bottom of the insole, instep. That's how they dry their hands. Huh? Soap, they didn't think too much about soap. So what was purity? Purity for them, we know that they had standards that they had to do also, but not like today. When they went to the toilet, they took rocks, odd number of rocks, and they wiped themselves. Or they took a dung from animals that were allowed to eat, and they wiped themselves. This was purity. Huh? Allahumma salli wa sallam barak ala Muhammad. So the people today, they are so concerned about the water and the soap and these things, but not the heart. Because the Sahabi, they were concerned about the purity of the heart. More for the heart than for the water on the hands. This is the big mistake of today. People are saying cleanliness is purity. Cleanliness is on the outside. Purity of cleanliness of the heart is here in the inside. So yes, we must make wudu, and we must make ghusl when it's necessary, and we must make a tayammum when it's necessary, but it's more necessary to worry about the purity of your heart. Don't get lost. Don't get lost. Your actions are what purify your heart. So if a person washed himself 1,000 times in water and then got up and paid riba, he did riba, or he ate pork, or his eyes always looking at the ladies, then he's wasting his water. They must go together. You understand? Okay, so I wanted to tell you that. Wait, you want to ask me something? You want to ask me something? Yes, Abdul Ahmed.
Just to go back briefly, can you explain what dua qanut is for the people who might not be familiar with this terminology? What is the dua of qanut, and where is it in the prayers?
In the madhab of Imam Malik, they make qanut in the second rak'ah before ruku, in the morning prayer of subh, what we call subh. Allahumma inna nasta'inuka wa nastaghfiruka wa nu'minu bika wa natawakkalu alayka wa nuthni alayka al-khayra kullahu nashkuruka wa la nakfuruka wa nakhna'u laka wa nakhlahu wa natruku man yakfuruka. Allahumma iyyaka na'budu wa ilayka nusalli wa nasjudu wa ilayka nas'a wa nafidu narju rahmataka wa nakhafu azabaka inna azabaka bil kafirina mulhik. So this is for us in this madhab is like it's a very big thing, but not fard, not sunnah muakkada, not fard, not sunnah muakkada, but it has a lot of rewards for the person who makes it, because this is a sunnah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but not such a big one that if you don't make it, the prayer is invalid. You follow me? Because if it was so big like that, then all madhabs would make it the same way, but they don't. Abu Hanifa madhab, they make it in the nighttime at the third rak'ah, the third ruku, the third rak'ah after ruku in the night, the last of your prayers. They make it the same, basically the same words, but they make it in a different time. And if you don't make it, it doesn't invalidate your prayer. So, but I advise the Muslims to learn to make it, because the sunnahs of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam are there to help us. And some hadiths say that for the people who practice his sunnah consistently, he will in fact be an intercessor for them. Those by practicing those sunnahs consistently, then we can expect that he will speak for us with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we need him most will be at the time when we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this sunnahs are big for us, for Muslim people. This will distinguish us from the other people. So everyone who knows something from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam should try to learn it and practice it consistently. This is our protection for later, you know. So anybody who sees Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this life now, you know, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he comes to the Muslim people You know, now, even now, all through history, he used to come to the Muslim people and they would see him. If you see him now, you will see him later. And everyone who sees him now and see him later will be successful. Because the people who don't see him, they will not be successful. They will go to the fire. The Muslims, when they see Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they will be safe. They will not go to fire. If you see him now, you see him. Shaitan, auzu billah, he cannot come like Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He promised us. So they're going to make the adhan. Allahumma inni as'aluka bi kulli khairin sadaqa minhu Muhammadur nabiyyuka sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وأعوذ بك بكل شر استغفرك منه محمد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم اغفر لنا ما قدمنا وما قرنا وما سررنا وما لنا وما أنت أعلم به من أربعتنا في الدنيا حسن وفي الآخرة حسن وقنا عذاب النار اللهم إني أعوذ بك من الماء والممات ومن فتنة القبر ومن فتنة مسير الدجال ومن عذاب النار وسوء المصير وصلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا.